All right. Well, welcome in, Tyler. We're gonna do another one of these podcasts.
Okay, sounds good.
So before we get started, we did do our draft order tonight, which is really exciting to me. Any
Oh yeah.
thoughts you share about your position?
Oh, I'm super excited as well. I
What
think
position
before
did you get?
I got 6, and you?
Okay. I'm 11, so I'm right at the turn, which I kind of like being on the turn.
Yeah. Yep. I kind of thought you might like it. Honestly, when he drew number 11 for you, I kind of thought that probably will work for Matt. Um,
Yeah.
if you remember some of the mocks that I was doing earlier in the off season, I was telling you that number 7 seemed to be about my sweet spot.
Yeah.
So I'm good with drafting 6 for sure.
I was hoping for somewhere in the 6 to 8, 9 range. Um,
Sure.
but I can work with 11. I mean, I'm going to get two, really high quality guys there at the end of the first, top of the second. So uh, I can't wait to start doing some mocks. Haven't done one yet. Sounds like you already did one, which is awesome.
I did one. Yes, I did one. Like the
Yep.
moment I found out I was drawing or I was picking 6.
Yeah, that's good. Well, that's the whole point of doing the early draft position is just, mock, mock, mock. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I will definitely be doing quite a few of those. So,
Yeah.
so So we haven't really done one of these in a little while, but we figured, we would like to try to start doing them regularly, and we really want to talk about our league specifically. So, our goal is to do it weekly, and kind of go over like what happened in the week and talk about different matchups and stuff. Um, I don't know if we'll hit that. I mean, to be fair, it is kind of difficult to get this organized and get together and do this. Um, but I like doing it, so I hope we can keep it up.
Yeah. I think it will be fun to do throughout the season and kind of talk
Yeah.
trash about everybody's team and about our teams too. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, just trying to make the league a little more fun. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so too. And I've said this a million times, but if anybody wants to join, I think that would be really cool. Um, and maybe whenever we have our rivalry week,
Yes.
maybe we can do something special then and have some people
Red
join in.
leather,
And
yellow leather. Red leather, yellow leather.
yeah, that's kind of a tongue twister. But yeah, maybe I can come down to Robinson and we can have some people join in and maybe make an event out of it or something.
Sounds good to me.
So, so what we're going to do today, we're going to do a couple things. So the first thing we're going to do is me and Tyler did our top 36. So we basically ranked the top 36, the top 3 rounds. And then what we did is we came up with a consensus. So this is just kind of like our rankings. And, by no means are we expecting to be in the top accuracy or anything like that. But it's actually kind of fun to to actually get it down on paper. Tyler, how'd you feel about the
Oh,
process?
it's really fun. It's kind of hard. I mean, it's really hard to think about like, would you actually draft, this receiver? I mean, it's easy to rank all your running backs or to rank all your wide receivers, but when you're really thinking like, where is the break where I would take this running back over these receivers, but not over these receivers or whatever, it's
Yeah,
it's tough, but it's fun.
it is fun. And actually, I guess I should say that it's Sunday, August 18th. So, the thing about ranking is they change a lot. If Melvin Gordon signs tomorrow, obviously the rankings change quite a bit. So,
Sure,
um, but keep
sure.
that in mind if you do listen to this, that we're doing this, and this is kind of a snapshot of this day specifically. So, and then
Yeah,
after we
and
do,
really a couple of days ago, to be honest, because I haven't
yeah,
changed mine.
true.
And honestly, mine would have. I just heard news today that Antonio Brown is missing camp again because he's frustrated with the helmet
Yeah.
situation. Honestly, I would move him down a little bit probably. Uh,
You know,
I just don't know what's going to happen with him.
I don't think it really affects it too. I think I don't think he's in any danger of missing time personally. Um, I think he's just doing what AB does, and he's being kind of a diva. Um,
He is a diva.
and I think that this will happen a couple times throughout the year. If he
Probably.
has a couple back-to-back, weeks where, let's say he gets not very many targets one week, and then the next week doesn't get many targets. Like I could see that really blowing up,
Yeah,
That's part of the reason why I am not really big on AB this year.
you just
Um,
want to deal with the drama.
you just don't know. I mean,
I get it. Yeah,
it's yeah. So,
I get it.
um, but yeah, keep that in mind if you're listening to this, that these rankings definitely change and will change. So, um, and when we're done with that, we're gonna do a quick mock. So basically, we're just gonna me and Tyler are gonna mock. We're gonna be on the same team, and we'll kind of alternate picks, but we'll kind of talk through it and talk through you know what we're thinking and what we would or wouldn't do, and ultimately, you know, we'll alternate, and Tyler will have final say, and then I'll have final say on the next, and we'll do a quick mock, and I think that'll be fun.
Yep, I think so too. I agree.
So
So before we get into this, you want to talk about our cigar bet?
yeah. So for those of you that don't know, and you didn't listen to maybe the last episode, me and Tyler are gonna make a bet every week. So um, it's gonna be something. I mean, we're kind of sticking with rookies, but eventually, you know, we'll kind of branch out and just do kind of what's relevant. But we'll make a bet, and at the end of the season, whoever comes out on top, like if I'm up 10, Tyler will owe me 10 cigars. So we're gonna call it our cigar bet.
Yeah. Which are you smoking one right now?
I am. Um, I've got a Macanudo. I've never had one before, but it is really nice.
Really? Good. I'm also smoking one, and it's just kind of my daily smoker. It's a cheaper one. I smoked a little bit nicer one this morning, so do my cheaper one tonight. It's just a Famous Smoke 365, but it's honestly for the price, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I've had a few of those as well, and yeah, for an everyday cigar, I mean, you can't beat it for the price. I
Yep,
mean,
I agree.
great value.
Yep. Oh, one other comment. Actually, well, let's go ahead and do the cigar bet first, I guess. Talk about
Okay,
that.
so the we can actually talk about the first cigar bet we did. Just to recap it real quick, we picked Kyler Murray over under 600 rushing yards for the season. And I took the over, and Tyler took the under. So that was the first one. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm already up 1-0.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't feel comfortable, and I
A
don't feel
rush for
comfortable
like,
with this next one either.
well, honestly, I could go either way on it. Um, I think it would be fun, but who
Yeah,
knows, man? I mean, one of these guys could easily blow up and be an RB1.
yeah.
Um,
Both
but
of them
okay,
could be.
yeah, I mean, so let's just go ahead and say it so people know what we're talking about.
Okay.
We're going to go with um, who has a better weekly average fantasy score between Josh Jacobs and Montgomery from the Bears. And
And
Tyler, you're
Matt,
taking.
I'm taking David Montgomery. Even though,
Okay.
so we're going to go through this, and you'll see that I actually have Josh Jacobs higher in my rankings, but they're back to back, and I'm a Bears fan anyway. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll take David Montgomery. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be fun to root for. And you know, obviously you're going to be rooting for him anyway. So, um,
Exactly.
and yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people, obviously Josh Jacobs, first running back taken in the draft. You know, he has no competition. So I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, yeah. I think you should feel pretty good about both your bets, honestly. Um,
Yeah.
and we did average fantasy average, just in case somebody gets hurt or something. We're not going to go season
Right.
total because one of them misses 5 games. That's not really fair. So we're going to go average. Figuring that's kind of the most fair way to do it.
Yeah. So hopefully one of them doesn't get hurt early because that would kind of make it not as fun. But,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, that's kind of the nature of these bets. I think last year, me and you had a bet with Derek about Jerick McKinnon.
yes, yep,
Um, and of course, that never even happened, so we didn't get to see how that played out.
yeah.
Um, but I think these are fun. They're something to
I,
keep track of throughout the year, and it's a fun little meta game to add to it. So,
yep, I agree. I agree.
yep.
And
So I'll put that down.
one more
Yeah, go
comment
ahead.
before we get into our top 36. Um, everybody's already going to know by the time they listen to this, if they listen to it. Um, Cole is the number one pick, and made a comment that he would be willing to trade, and of course the first person to respond is Drew, that he would trade. He'd be willing to trade spots or whatever, and it just it just made me think. I'm so happy to have Drew back in the league. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's so active, and he's always trying to make trades. And Drew, if you listen to this, buddy, I'm just happy you're back in the league.
Yep. Well, welcome back, Drew. We're glad to have you, and I love trades too. So, send me all the trade offers you got.
Yep, even the bad ones.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I'll,
just to
yeah, send me a
try to
bad one. I'll
counter it or
counter with a
something.
bad one.
Yeah. All right.
Is
Want to
there
get
is
into
there
it?
any more? Well, is there any more news that's going on right now that we should talk about? Anything recent?
Um, Not really that I could think of. I mean, like I said, there's been some small stuff, like I said about the Antonio Brown, that kind of thing, but nothing major.
Yeah, I
So
think it's just some hype stuff,
yeah,
but
no
yeah,
Zeke
nothing,
signing yet. No
no.
no Gordon signing.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about those guys because they do pop up in the top 36. So let's just
Yeah.
jump right in here. So I got the top 36 pulled up. Do you have it pulled up, Tyler?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't you go ahead and start us off then? These first couple picks, obviously, they're nothing special. We know these guys, and they're going to be top 3, 4 on pretty much every board.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead with that first one, Tyler.
So first, I'll just cover the first two real quick, actually, because
Yeah.
we both have Barkley ranked 1, and we both have Chris McCaffrey ranked 2.
Yep.
Don't need to say a whole lot about those guys. And to be honest with you, if I was Cole, and I had the number 1 pick, I would honestly consider taking Christian McCaffrey. They are pretty much the same to me. It's kind of splitting hairs, so I just kind of picked Barkley at 1, but it could be McCaffrey, and I would have no problem with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think McCaffrey, his ceiling is just as high as Barkley's.
Mhm.
I think that probably Barkley, he just is a bigger part of that offense
Yeah,
because they just don't have much. But that being said, their offense is not going to be very good, and McCaffrey probably is going to have more chances to score. Um,
exactly.
Barkley may break off, how many 20, 30, 40, 50-yard touchdown runs will he have this year?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
But
Um,
those guys are pretty easy.
I agree. And I actually think this next guy, if somebody took him number 1, I certainly would not look at him funny, and that's Alvin Kamara or
Yeah.
Kamara. Um, I see a lot of people have him as number 1 on their board. So, he's
Yep.
obviously awesome, and Mark Ingram's gone. And if anybody remembers the first 3 or 4 games last year, I think Kamara averaged like 33 points a game over those
Yeah.
when Ingram was out, which is just
Something
crazy.
ridiculous.
So, yeah, he was the RB1 by a long shot. I'm not saying that that's going to happen or that's going to continue, but um, he's definitely an awesome guy that you want to have on your team.
For sure. Yep, for sure. Um, you have him ranked 1 spot. I have him ranked at 4, and you have him ranked at 3. I actually have Zeke ranked
Yeah.
ahead of him. Which it's honestly it's just trying to guess with Zeke, because honestly, if he doesn't sign still by next week and we draft, then I'm taking Kamara over him. But I'm kind of hedging a little bit, I guess, by putting Zeke
Yeah.
at 3 instead of 4. Because if Zeke signed before next week, I'd take him number 1.
Sure.
So
And
it's kind of trying to hedge there, and it's hard to place him.
yeah, and I think Zeke is the one guy, the one holdout that I'm not worried about for some reason. I've heard some comments from his agent about, he says it is possible that he could miss a game or two or a few, but he's confident that he will sign. And with guys like Gordon, like he may not sign at
Yeah.
all. So I just feel a little more confident, and I would feel pretty confident drafting him.
To be fair, I felt confident with Le'Veon Bell last year. As a matter of fact, I think I
Yeah.
don't remember who I was talking to, but we talked about Randy taking Gurley number 1, and I said, honestly, if I was number 1, I probably would take Bell. I would have been dead wrong, obviously, but and we may be dead wrong about Zeke. Who knows? But yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm not too scared.
But to be fair, Bell was out there saying, "Hey, I'm back. I'm going to play," and he was out there talking about it. And Zeke hasn't done that, which I think is smart, But Bell kind of set people up, and that
He did.
that was unfortunate. So,
Yeah.
um, so going into the next spot where the first receiver's coming off the board, and I had him ranked here at 5. Tyler had him at 7, and that's DeAndre Hopkins. Um, Obviously, super high floor guy, high ceiling as well. Um, he's just a huge part of that offense, and is a target monster over there, and he just seems to be consistently good every single year. So, I mean, you cannot go wrong with him.
Right. Nope. I totally agree. Only reason why I have him uh, a little bit lower is because of the next two guys that we'll talk about. But yeah, Hopkins is a
Yeah.
stud.
And to be fair, these first 3 or 4, probably I would say 3 receivers, are really just personal preference. I mean, who do you like? Who do you want to root for? They're all awesome. So I mean,
Yeah.
they're all interchangeable pretty much.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So number 6, we'll go back to running back, and it's David Johnson. We're a little bit off on this one, so I have him ranked number 5. Matt, you have him ranked number 8. Do you want to talk about why? Because I think it's pretty consistent. Like 5 seems to be about average for him. Do you want to talk a little bit why you have
Yeah.
him a little lower?
So a lot of people draft. They do tier-based drafting, and I think
Sure.
he's clearly not in that first tier. And I just think the 3 receivers that I put in front of him are that very top tier of receiver.
Sure.
And it's close, really. I mean, it just depends on your draft strategy. If you want to go running back there, I mean, you could easily go DJ5, and I would take DJ5 and not feel bad about it. I think I took him 3rd last year.
Yeah,
I think he's going to have a better year this year.
I agree.
But I just really love those top 3 receivers.
Yeah,
That's just kind of how I feel about it.
yeah, that's fair enough.
So right
So,
after him, we've got Devontae Adams. I had him last year. He was unbelievably consistent. I think he scored like over 22 points pretty much every week except like 1. Um,
yeah,
he was just so good. I don't see why that would change. I mean, he's obviously, I think that Aaron Rodgers made a comment this offseason that he could throw to him more, and he would like to throw to him more. So anybody that's lucky to get him this year is going to be very happy.
yeah. Oh, I'll be thrilled with him. Don't get me wrong. I will be
Yeah.
thrilled with him.
Oh,
He's my number 1 receiver.
Are you saying that you're going to get him at 6?
Probably. Well, we'll see. But that's who I'm leaning toward. That's who I'm getting in most mocks. But hey, somebody I may not expect may fall to me. Who knows?
Sure.
But yeah, like you said, he's just consistent. I actually, him and Hopkins are pretty similar to me. I just value the consistency of Adams a little higher. The next
Yeah.
receiver, though, I was disappointed when I saw your rankings at how much you love this guy, because I really like him. Is Julio Jones, and a lot of mock drafts, especially earlier, you were getting him a little later. He seemed to be the 4th or 5th receiver taken, But Julio, I mean, what do you really need to say about Julio? He's a
Yeah.
stud.
He is one of my favorite players in the NFL.
Yeah.
If anybody that plays fantasy football and doesn't get to watch a lot of games, go watch his highlight reel, man. When he gets the ball, he is just unbelievable.
Yes.
I watched a video today um, that showed him after an interception or a fumble had happened, and he was just chasing, these defenders down that had the ball. It was just awesome. I mean, he's
Yeah.
just so physically gifted. I mean, I just love the guy. So, I mean, he could, if somebody took him as the first receiver, I would not be. I mean, that would be a great pick.
Yep. Totally agree. Could not agree
Yeah,
more.
and I also think that he takes that touchdown. I think he's done with the touchdown woes. I think that he takes that momentum into the season.
I agree.
So next is a guy that we actually have a little bit higher than most consensus boards, and
Yep.
that's Dalvin Cook.
Yep.
Most people have him about 5 spots lower than we do. Um, But anytime Dalvin Cook is in and plays, gets a full load, he is awesome.
Yeah.
He's been really, really good. I mean, he's an RB1 when he plays.
Yep.
And I think that he's finally healthy. I also think that the Vikings are making it a point to run a lot this year. Last year they had the offense coordinator John DeFilippo is gone, and he was the pass happy guy. So I think that Cook is going to have a big role if he can stay healthy. I think he's a rock solid RB1.
100% agree. Yeah, we like you said, we have him a little bit higher than most places, but he to me he's probably the back. If I had to pick somebody in the second round that could finish as a top 3 running back, top 5 running back, something like that, it'd probably be Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he does this year.
Yep, me too. At one spot below him, he's actually one spot ahead of him in my rankings, is Nick Chubb. I love Nick Chubb. The Browns' offense should be a lot better, and I know some people are kind of scared of Kareem Hunt, but honestly, he's not coming back till week 10.
Yeah.
So who cares if you have, a top, if you have the 6, 7, 8 running back, whatever, for the first 10 weeks, you've probably secured your spot in the playoffs. And if I have to deal with him touching the ball a little bit less when Kareem Hunt comes back, so be it. Since the Browns traded away Duke Johnson, I think they've talked a little bit about Chubb catching the ball a little more. I'm not saying he's not going to get all of Duke Johnson's passes. The guy behind him, they've talked pretty well about him too. But
yeah, I think his name's Hilliard.
Hilliard. Yeah, there you go. But I think Chubb's workload is pretty secure, and I would be happy with taking him, in the first round, no problem.
I totally agree. And I saw just a couple things. I saw a stat that showed the most fourth quarter carries in 2018, and Nick Chubb was like number 3, which
That's
means
pretty
that
good.
if they're in positive game scripts, he's going to pound the ball in the fourth quarter and rack up some serious points. And another thing to note about the Kareem Hunt suspension is that when these guys are suspended, they're not allowed to be with the team. They're not allowed to be in the facility. They can't practice. Like, he's not going to come back and just be ready to go.
Yeah.
So when he comes back week 10, he probably will be minimally involved.
I agree.
Yeah, so even if he does get involved, I mean, it's going to be a few weeks. So I just don't think this is Kareem Hunt's year. Next year, it'll be a different story. But this year,
Sure.
I think you're safe. I think Chubb's pretty safe.
I agree.
So the next guy, this one is obviously there's been a ton of talk about this guy in the offseason. We just don't know what to expect, and that's Todd Gurley. I've seen him all over the place. Tyler has him a lot higher than I do. You had him at 9, and I had him at 15. There's definitely a world where Gurley comes out and is Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
Now, going back to that stat I mentioned with Chubb, Gurley was among the top guys that had fourth quarter carries, and I don't know if that will continue. So I do think that his ceiling is probably slightly lower because if the Rams are ahead a lot this year, I think that they may lean on like Malcolm Brown or Henderson, in the fourth quarter instead of, because, and I think last year the Rams had more double-digit wins than anyone,
Yes.
which means they're ahead a lot and they're going to score a lot of points. We know that. So, Gurley may not be the guy. If the game's wrapped up in the fourth quarter, you may not see him. But
Right.
I think that he's still going to score. And I think, if Todd Gurley scores 12 to 15 touchdowns this year, I don't think anybody will be surprised.
No, not at all. Not at all. I have him ranked higher because I'm trying to think, like, for example, we haven't talked about him yet, but James Conner is my number 10. So he'd be the very next running back. So I'm looking at Conner, Chubb, and Dalvin Cook. All guys I like, but if I'm really on the board and I'm deciding I'm going to take a running back, I'm taking my shot with Gurley.
Yeah.
Reason being because, his ceiling is probably a little lower than it has been, but if he hits, I mean, if his knees hold up and he's not injured, that's an unfair advantage. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You have an
right. I mean,
unfair advantage at running back. You have basically two players in one position.
right. Yeah, I think that, the worry is, he comes out week one and, oh, he's sore at halftime and he sits the rest of the game and then maybe
Sure.
doesn't get as many snaps. That's the nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
We don't know. But everything I've heard about him out of camp is positive. Um, so yeah, someone's going to have to grab him, and whoever does, I mean, could be getting a steal.
Yeah. Yep. Next guy is someone who there was a lot of talk about in the offseason because, of course, of the stuff that you don't want to hear about, all the legal or potential legal problems he was having, is Tyreek Hill. Matt, you have him same as Gurley. We have him exactly flipped. So you have him a little higher than I do. But the guy is just unbelievable. He's unbelievably fast. He's on a fantastic offense. Do you want to talk a little bit about why you have him ranked 9?
Yeah,
Our
so
consensus is 12.
yeah, and we have him higher than most people. So most boards have him about mid-second round. I've seen him at the top of the second, but um, I have experience with Tyreek Hill. Well, number one, I think he blew up against me last year. I think Justin had him, so that was painful. But I also have him in Dynasty, so I know what he can do. And the thing about Tyreek Hill is, he was the number one receiver last year, for the whole season.
Right.
I don't think that I think he can do better than that, and that's crazy to say, but there were several games where he kind of disappeared, and that's kind of the fear with him is he's kind of boom or bust, and he's more boom than bust. But he did bust a couple times last year, um, and I think that if you think, I think this is only his fourth year, so he's still a pretty young guy. I think that his ceiling is he hasn't even reached it yet.
Yeah,
So I really really like Tyreek Hill, and he can outright win you a week, um,
absolutely.
and that's why I love him. I love to pair him with someone super consistent. Obviously, Adams would be a great pair with him, but that's maybe not feasible. But if you put him with like a Robert Woods or something, I think that's a great pairing.
Yeah, I agree.
So next up, we have a guy I don't love. It's hard to say. I did have him last year in redraft, and that's James Conner. Um, Obviously, he was an absolute stud at the beginning of the year. I mean, all the way up until about week 10, I believe. He was just awesome. Tons of catches, tons of carries, tons of touchdowns. Um, it's just tough to know what his role is going to be this year because of the emergence of Jalen Samuels, um, and just that offense in general. They lost Antonio Brown. Um, I think there's a lot of question marks on the Steelers this year. So I think he's a guy that I'm I'm not saying I wouldn't mind having him, but he is a little bit riskier than some of these other guys before him.
Sure, sure. So I have him ranked 4 spots higher than you. I like him. I still feel good about. Obviously, the Steelers' offense is not going to be as good this year, but I still feel good about their offensive line. I feel good about Connor's catch pass catching ability. Um, I think he has the ability to be a true number one running back. So I'm totally comfortable taking him. I do acknowledge that he does have a little more risk because you don't know what their offense is going to look like. But I still think with Juju there and Big Ben, I still think it's going to be one of the better offenses in the league. Maybe not quite as good as what it was last year, but I'm okay with taking the shot at Connor.
Yeah, and another point, and I don't want to beat Connor down, but he did finish the year pretty rough, um, and I think he
He
had
did.
some injuries.
He did.
Um,
Yeah, he was dealing with some injuries.
yeah,
Next, we have somebody who I'm a little lower on than you. He's our 14th ranked player, and that's who I have him ranked at 14 as well. You have him at 11. Um, he's obviously ridiculously talented, but it does feel a little bit like so we're talking about Odell Beckham Jr. Obviously, he's super talented, but it does feel a little bit like he should be a top 3 receiver every year, and just generally isn't. And I don't know if it's, he deals with some injuries, or I'm not really sure. Also, switching teams, I probably have him a little bit lower than you for those reasons. But obviously, uh, you get a receiver like that, and you could be swinging for the fences because he could. I mean, would it be absolutely shocking for him to be the number 1 receiver in the league? Not really,
No,
not to me.
no. And I think that not only would it not be shocking, I think it's possible. Um, I think that they're going to throw to him a lot. Um, I'm excited to see what he can do. I've seen some footage out of camp, and he looks awesome. Um, I'm really excited. I think Beckham is it, and the reason I don't have him higher with that first group um, is because he's with a new team, and he does have some bust potential sometimes.
Yeah,
Uh, I've had him in the
just a little
past
bit
before.
riskier.
Yeah, he's a little bit riskier, but he's still a great player, and I expect big things out of him this year.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of guys going to new teams, we've got Le'Veon Bell next.
Yeah,
Um, everybody knows
interesting
how
with him.
talented.
I think it's interesting that he's our consensus ranked 15th player, but we actually both have him at 13.
Yeah, yeah, it just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that he's going to get the ball a lot. Um, and to be fair, I've been really impressed with what I've seen from Sam Darnold in the preseason. His first two outings have been really good.
yeah,
Um, both touchdown drives look sharp. I watched the highlights from both games, and he looks like he's really taken that step. Um, so I think their offense is going to be improved.
I
I
agree.
think they're going to be improved overall. Um, but he does have a little bit of risk just because it's a new team. I don't know that the offensive line. I mean, definitely it's not as good as Pittsburgh's. Um,
Correct. Yeah.
and
Although
there's
their
just a
offensive
little
line
bit of
has not looked bad, and it's
no.
preseason, but they have not looked bad.
Yeah. Um, we haven't seen a great run game out of New York for a little while, and I think that's part of it too. Um, they just haven't been super impressive as a running team lately.
Yeah,
I think
that's
he'll
true.
turn it around, but there's a lot of unknown there. So
There's definitely a lot of unknown. I like Sam Darnold. I have him in Dynasty, so he's made me pretty happy so far this offseason. I'm hoping
yeah,
for big things. Maybe not even this year, but um, just shows a little promise of what could happen. Uh,
definitely.
so one thing about Le'Veon Bell, though, real quick. So the Jets signed Ty Montgomery from the Packers, and they did that after they had already signed Le'Veon Bell. Um, and from the reports that I've heard, like they're going to use him probably. I mean, Le'Veon Bell's still going to get the lion's share of the work, obviously. They didn't pay him all that money to not use him,
Hmm.
but I do have a feeling that whoever ends up being the Lev Bell owner will be a little annoyed with how much they use Ty Montgomery in the passing game. I could be wrong,
Sure.
but I kind of have a feeling. Not to say he won't be
Yeah.
good, but I just have a feeling if you're the Bell owner, you'd be a little annoyed at that.
Yeah. And I believe they re-signed Bilal Powell as well. And he's a guy that's been around that organization for a long time.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I don't think it's out of bounds to say that he'll get 5 carries a game.
yep, I agree. Um, so next we have Michael Thomas. He's our ranked 16, and really he's our ranked 16 because uh, I have him quite a bit lower than most people. I have him at 19. Matt, you have him at 12. Um, I'll talk a little bit about why. Why? Just so I drafted him last year, and he was a stud for like the first, I don't remember, 4, 5, 6 games, whatever. Um, but there's a couple games where he disappears, and he's not as consistent of a guy as you would think he would be, because his catch rate was like 85% last year, which is unheard of. He has a Hall of Fame quarterback throwing to him. You would just feel like he'd be a little more consistent, but they don't throw the ball as much as most teams. They run the ball a lot more, and there's just games that they don't really need him.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I have him ranked a little bit lower. It's just a consistency thing for me because honestly, he's one of the top probably 3 receivers in the league. But if he's not getting as many targets as the other guys, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that um, New Orleans as a team is just a running team. Um, they're going to have a lot of games where they're just not going to need to pass because number one, their defense is a lot better than it has been in past years. So if they get out to a lead with Kamara and Latavius Murray, like they're just not going to need to throw as much. So not to say that Michael Thomas um, won't get catches, but he may not have as many big blow up games where he's scoring 2-3 touchdowns.
Yeah, and the catch
So I
rate
think that
has got to regress, right? There's no
yeah,
way he's catching 85% of his targets this year. So
right. And don't forget, I mean, Drew Brees I think he's 40 years old this year. So
yeah,
you know, don't be surprised if his passing attempts go down.
yep. Actually, Colin Cowherd, I listened to him. This has been probably a month or two ago, but he was talking about the Saints and how he's calling for them to severely disappoint everybody this year. He thinks that they won't be a good team. He's
Huh.
called,
Well,
yeah, it was interesting. He's called a couple different teams in the past few years, and I don't remember who it was. I think one of them was the Panthers the year after they went to the Super Bowl. But he's like the last 3 or 4 years, he's called out like one team who everybody expects to be really good, and he is saying that nope, last year they peaked, and it's over for him this year, and this year it's the Saints. So I'm kind of interested to see, how well his predictions do this year.
yeah. I mean, it would be very easy for them to disappoint because they were one play away from the Super Bowl. So that's
Yeah.
pretty, that's a pretty high achievement,
Yep.
and so basically, anything short of that is a disappointment. So
Yeah.
it's a tough league, man. There's a lot of good teams and a lot of talented players. So
Yeah.
I could see it.
He was actually calling for him to miss the playoffs, like not just this one, but like he's saying they won't make the playoffs. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not saying that I agree with that, but that's just his prediction.
If I think about their division, I guess I could see them
Panthers stuff
not
out.
winning it, but man, I still feel like the Saints are the strongest team in that division.
Yeah, probably.
Next is a guy I like a lot. It's Juju Smith-Schuster. It's hard to say what to expect from him this year because obviously Antonio Brown's gone. Um, in the games that Antonio Brown missed last year, Juju was still great.
Yeah.
Um, but he is going to move out of the slot. I don't think he'll play from the slot as much this year.
Right.
So, if his catches go down, that could happen. But I mean, heck, they could really go up. I mean, I don't know the number, but he had an obscene number of targets last year.
It was like
But
165 or something like that, I think.
yeah, but so did Antonio Brown, and he's gone now. So he's going to have to pass to somebody.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like Juju a lot. I'd be super happy to grab him at 17. So,
Yeah.
he's a rock solid wide receiver one.
Agree. And I can tell you, as an Antonio Brown owner last year, I hated him. He got targeted a lot more than I liked.
Yeah. Yeah. Antonio Brown was a little bit frustrating last year, but you know what? He was kind of a second half player last year for some
He
reason.
definitely was. He definitely was. Our number 18th player is our first tight end off the board, is Travis Kelce. We have him probably ranked a little lower than most people. I've seen a lot of, especially in PPR leagues, I've seen a lot of people have him go in the first round. I think it's because, and I don't want to talk for you, but I assume you feel the same way as me. As you don't really want to take one of those one of positions. So we have tight ends and quarterbacks ranked lower than most people. And honestly, that's the only reason why I think we have him a little lower is because he's a tight end. You only need to field one of them. But as
Definitely.
far as tight ends
Definitely.
go, he's obviously, he's at a tier of his own, right?
I think so. You know, if I think most people would agree that they expect him to finish the year as the top scoring tight end. He's
Yeah,
just such a huge part of that offense.
right.
And obviously he's on maybe the best offense in the NFL.
Sure.
That that definitely helps. And a lot of people do have him at the top of the second. and if you do get him, you have such an advantage because the drop off in tight end production after the first two or three guys is massive. So, if you do get Kelsey, you have a great advantage. So, I mean, I understand when people get him pretty early.
Yeah.
It's just for some reason I just can't make that jump to get that tight end early. I just never have. Like even with Gronk, I've never owned Gronk because I just have never been willing to spend that high draft pick on him.
I have had Gronk a couple times, and I will tell you, we talked about Julio earlier and how much we like Julio, and Julio is one of my favorite people to have on my team. But Gronk, when Gronk was dominant, no question, he was my favorite person to have on my fantasy team. He was so fun to own, and I assume Kelsey's similar. And so if he falls to me in the second round, absolutely I could see taking him. I don't think that's going to happen, but I definitely could see taking him there.
Yeah, and Kelsey's a little more consistent, I'd say, and that's kind of one of his strengths.
Mm-hmm.
Is that he's a pretty consistent tight end as far as scoring. I mean, he has his blow up weeks as well, but he's really not going to give you too many dead games.
Yeah, agree.
The next guy is a guy that I really, really, really like.
We have him a little higher than everybody else, right?
I think we do have him slightly higher. He's probably going. His ADP is probably somewhere in the third. But he's super hyper talented. It's Kerryon Johnson. If you ever watch the guy play, he looks electric. Like when he gets the ball, he just looks so fast and so quick. I love watching him play. The Lions did come out and say we're a running football team. We're going to establish the run this year. They got rid of Theo Riddick, which is kind of huge for Kerryon.
That's a big deal, yeah.
We hope that he inherits some of those targets, and if he does, he could easily be an RB1.
Agree. He's our consensus 19. I have him at 17. To be honest, I would actually probably move him down a couple spots after today, just because I had read where in their second preseason game he was playing a lot of snaps in the second quarter. And after CJ Anderson had already went out. So it's a little worrisome. Maybe they're going to use CJ Anderson a little more than I would like. But like you said, super talented guy. He's got a 3-down skill set. So that's the kind of guy you're looking for, I think, in a PPR league.
Yeah, and you're right. CJ Anderson does threaten his ceiling a little bit. And goal line. We just don't know what the goal line role is going to be, and that can be a big deal. If CJ Anderson scores 7-8 touchdowns this year, that's going to really put a dent into Kerryon's fantasy production.
Yep, I agree. Next at 20, we have Mike Evans, and you have him at 19. I have him at 20, so we're pretty consistent on him. The guy's just been so good ever since he's come in the league. He's had 1,000 yards every year. He's a big target. He should always be a fantastic red zone target. So, there's not a whole lot more you can say about him, really, I don't think.
No, he had 1,500 yards last year, which is awesome. I mean, that's like rare territory for a wide receiver. He had 86 receptions. I don't think it's out of bounds to say that those could go up. They brought in Bruce Arians, who is a big time. He's a big play pass guy. You know what I mean? They're going to throw it down the field a lot, and Mike Evans is great at that. He's I think he's 6'5". Big guy, is great with contested catches. Scores a lot. So I really like Mike Evans. He's super, super talented. He's another guy that's really fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. I think the only knock is Jameis Winston.
Yeah, it could be Jameis Winston. You're right. I think that he's had a pretty good connection with him though. His history with him has been pretty good production. So if Jameis can take a step forward, obviously that helps.
Yeah, but people have been saying that for the last 3 years.
Sure.
He's still young. I think he's 25 or something like that. So he's still young, but I'm not going to hold my breath that he takes a step forward.
Right. But I think that I believe this is the last year of his rookie contract. So, it's kind of make or break for
It's
him.
do or
And
die time. Yeah.
yeah, and Arians coming in as a brand, he's evaluating him this year. So, if he wants to stick around in Tampa Bay, um, he's got to prove it this year, or I feel like Tampa Bay will draft a quarterback.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Next, we have Antonio Brown. And like we said earlier, well, I don't know if we said this, but he's not at practice. He did not show up to practice today. He's still mad about the helmet thing.
Yeah.
And I think the general manager came out and said that he needs to know if he's all in or all out.
Yep.
I don't think there's too much weight to that personally. I don't think that he's in any danger of missing time. I think that he's just kind of being a baby. And I think that, he proved this last weekend whenever he was saying, I don't need to play football anymore. And then the next day he was like, I can't wait to get back with the team. Um, so I think that when the season starts, AB will be there. Um,
Yeah.
I still have doubts about Derek Carr being able to deliver the ball to him. I think he'll get pretty good targets. Obviously, he's incredibly talented. Um, but man, I just worry about. I worry about if he has a game or two where he doesn't get as many targets as he would like. I could see him starting to cause problems in the locker room, and that you know none of that's going to be good for his fantasy value.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Next we have Keenan Allen, who I don't know where his ADP is. I probably have him much lower than most. He finishes at R22 rank. Our consensus ranked 22, but Matt has him at 18. I have him at 26. I'd love to be able to sit here and defend that. Honestly, I really don't know why. I've just never felt comfortable with him, and I don't know. I can't explain it. It's just a kind of a gut feeling. I just can't imagine him. Um, I can't picture him being my wide receiver one. You know what I mean? So if I
Yeah.
took a running back early, could I see grabbing him in the third round? Sure, but which is kind of why I have him at 26. But I just can't imagine him being my wide receiver one. If I left the draft with him as my wide receiver one, I wouldn't feel good about it.
So his ADP, according to Fantasy Football Calculator, is 27.
Oh,
Um,
really?
and he's right in the middle of like six running backs. So I mean, I could totally see, if you're sitting there, there's Leonard Fournette, Kerryon Johnson, Aaron Jones, Marlon Mack, Devontae Freeman going right around him. If you're not comfortable with him as your one, all those guys are high ceiling guys. So um, a lot of
So
upside
then,
there. So yeah.
well, I don't really need to defend my 26 ranking. You need to defend your 18.
I've had Keenan Allen before. He is an absolute target monster, super talented, one of the best route runners in the NFL. Um, Tyrell Williams is gone. I think that Hunter Henry, personally, I just don't think his role is going to be as big, and I don't have any reason behind that. I just think that they're going to. Philip Rivers has had Keenan Allen with him for what 3, 4, 5 seasons now.
Right?
Um, and he is his favorite target, and I don't think that changes. I really like Keenan Allen. He destroyed me last year in the playoffs. He put up a goose egg when I really needed him. Um, so I do have some bad memories of him, but I love his talent, and I think that I just don't see any reason why he doesn't continue that.
Fair. Yep, that's fair.
All right, so next we've got Devontae Freeman. Um, This is a guy that's been hurt a lot recently. Um, I think it was his second year was the year he was unbelievable. He was a
Yeah.
super high end RB1. I think he finished like third overall or something.
Yeah.
Um, he was great. So he obviously has the talent. Tevin Coleman's gone, so his
Coleman's gone. Yep.
opportunity is he is going to be the guy. They did draft a rookie, Quadri Allison, I believe. But I don't think that he's going to threaten Freeman much, but he is going to bite into Ito Smith. And I think that he could take some goal line stuff. But Devontae Freeman has a nose for the end zone. The dude
Mm-hmm.
scores. So, you know, he could easily be an RB1
Yeah.
if he can stay healthy. I think he is an absolute steal at this pick.
I 100% agree. You talked about his dominant years, and that was with Dirk Ketter as their offensive coordinator, and he's back. Um,
Right.
I love Freeman. We have him actually ranked similarly. He's our 23 consensus. I have him 22. You have him 23, which I was surprised by because I felt like I liked him a lot more than you did, but I guess not. I think he's a stud, and he's on what should be a good offense. He catches the ball well. You're not gonna have a chance at a back this late very often that has the potential that he has. I think.
Yeah, and I one thing about Atlanta, they had a ton of injuries on defense last year, um, and I think they're just going to be a better team this year. I think people forget they were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They were very good, and I think that they're going to be a better team this year. They drafted some offensive linemen. I think their first two picks were offensive linemen.
Yep.
So they are a team that could jump out and surprise some people. So earlier I was saying that the Saints are the favorites for that division. But man, if Atlanta comes up and steals it, I won't be super surprised.
No,
Um,
I wouldn't either.
yeah, so Freeman
Wouldn't
is a
either.
guy that I really like. But looking at my draft position, I would have to reach for him to get him. So I probably am not going to get him in
Yeah.
redraft. Um,
Right. I could.
you could. I would love it if he fell to me at the end of the third, but I don't see that happening.
I don't see that happening either.
Yeah.
As somebody that drafts before you in the third round, I don't see that happening. Um, Next, we have Joe Mixon, who I love Joe Mixon as a talent. I think he's a fantastic running back. Um, I tried to trade for him in the Dynasty League last year. Drew wouldn't give him up because he's a jerk. But he's he's 24 in our rankings. He's 22 on Matt. You have him 22. I have him 25. Uh, the only knock against him has got to be the Bengals, right? They're having some offensive line problems. Who knows what's going on with AJ Green? Uh, I just don't know if I feel comfortable with that offense. And we talked about this a little bit earlier. Giovanni Bernard is a good running back, and they talk about wanting to get him a little more involved. I'm not personally scared of that as much as just the offense.
Yeah. Their first pick in the draft was an offensive lineman, and he's already out for the year. Um, they're just not expected to be a very good team offensively. Obviously, losing AJ Green is a huge blow. If you look at Tyler Boyd's um, numbers without AJ Green, they went down significantly because the offense is just not as good without him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I still think he's incredibly talented, and I think he'll get a lot of work. Um, but he's been falling quite a bit
Yeah.
on draft boards, and that's a big reason. However, somebody could get a steal, and that's I would still be happy grabbing him there. But again, I don't think he'll fall to me at the end of the third.
Right. Yeah. I don't either.
Um, Another guy, the next guy is someone that you like a little more than I do, and that's Aaron Jones. Um, he's really, really talented. He's on a great team, but the thing is that he's just not really on a run first team.
Right.
Um, and it's a committee. Now, there's a new head coach. Matt LaFleur came over from Tennessee, and he was the offensive coordinator in LA the year that the Rams broke out. So Sean McVay's first year, he was the offensive coordinator there. So he does have a pretty good pedigree. Um, don't know if I would say the same about Tennessee. Their offense was terrible last year. Um, but it's interesting to see what they'll do. I believe they've come out and said that they're still going to stick with the committee. So I don't expect him to be like a workhorse guy, but he's really talented, and you owned him, so you probably know a little more about him than I do.
Yeah. First of all, he's hyper efficient. Like I don't remember what his yards per carry were last year, but it's like 5 something.
I think it was 5'5".
Yeah, he's unbelievably good, I think. And Jamal Williams is just a guy, in my opinion. So, yeah, I assume, if I own Aaron Jones, I'm going to be a little annoyed with how much work Jamal Williams gets. But I'm still comfortable enough thinking that Aaron Jones will get the bulk of it. And I think if he gets the opportunity in that offense, um, I think he's going to be good. Now, if he wasn't a part of a committee, I'd have him ranked higher. I mean, I think the guy's
Yeah.
really good. He's a really good player on what should be a really good offense. Um, you're not going to stack the box against Green Bay. You know what I mean? So
Right. You
he
can't.
should have plenty of opportunity, providing he's in the game and getting the touches and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like him a lot.
And I think that, a lot of times with these committees, the hot hand typically wins. And if Aaron Jones comes in and dominates, his share could go up. And so,
Yeah.
he's another one of those guys with high upside that you could grab here and be very happy with.
Yep, I agree. Next, we have Leonard Fournette, who we have him as our rank 26. Matt, you have him at 24. I have him at 27. Obviously, we've seen him not really be that efficient, but he gets enough work, and they should hopefully be a better offense. He's just going to get the work. He's going to be an RB2, right? I mean, there's no way he's not an RB2. I think. So I think you like him a little more than I do, but
Yeah,
I've had him. I had him his rookie year, and he was good then. He's
yeah,
just a
and
risk, though. He's an injury
he
risk,
is.
and I don't
He
know.
gets hurt a
That's
lot.
probably why we have him a little lower.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's a former fourth overall draft pick. I mean, the guy was unbelievable in college. Super, super talented guy. He's just and I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but there's just something about him that, he's just been inconsistent. He's had some weird, weird things happen with his contract and some of it's about how he just behaves around the team. And
Yeah.
they took away his guaranteed money, and he got suspended a game last year for just punching somebody in a game.
Yeah.
He's just one of those guys that you just can't count on. Like, you don't want this guy as your first start running back.
No.
That being said, he should get a lot of work this year. And they talk about they want to throw in the ball a little bit more. So, I mean, I could see him being a fringe one, but I think he's a rock solid too.
If he plays all 16 games, it wouldn't surprise me if he ends as a RB1. That's basically what he's done, right? He's averaged RB1 numbers. It's just, does anybody really expect him to be there for all 16 games? I don't.
No, and I had him last year. I traded for him. In the games that he played, he was actually awesome. Like, he had a 2 or 3 game streak where he was great.
Yep.
So he can do it. And like you said, the offense should be better this year. So I actually like Fournette. He's a guy that technically he probably could fall to me at the end of the third.
Yeah, he definitely could.
We'll see.
Yep.
The next guy is a guy that's kind of falling in draft boards. It's Damian Williams. Obviously, he's on a great team, and that team produces great fantasy running backs. Basically, whoever is the fantasy running back or the starting running back for the Chiefs has been super fantasy relevant.
Or for Andy Reid, even going back farther.
Yeah, right. So, obviously he was great in the stretch last year after Kareem Hunt was suspended. He was awesome. There are some questions about his talent. I didn't realize he was the guy that played for the Dolphins the year before. Behind, he's behind Drake and
he was ahead of Drake
Lamar
actually
Miller.
Until he got hurt. He was ahead of Drake, and then he got hurt, and that's what gave Kenyon Drake the opportunity.
Yeah, so he came in and he was awesome last year. I mean, he was an RB1 whenever he played.
Yeah.
There have been some weird stuff out of camp about how they're going to be a committee, which Andy Reid has typically not done.
No.
And I've been hearing a lot of hype about
the rookie,
his name, Darwin Thompson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of hype behind him. So
I have too.
Today, Andy Reid had some really high praise for him today. So he's a little risky. Some people have him a lot higher than we do.
Yeah.
And he certainly could be awesome, but he's just a little risky.
Yeah, so we have him on our consensus 27, but he's one guy that's like I'd love to take a shot on him if I have a rock solid RB1 already. You know what I mean? So let's say you had Kamara or somebody like that. Then you went receiver in the second round. So now you're getting your second running back. Damien Williams is kind of the perfect second running back because he's risky. And honestly, if he disappoints, it wouldn't surprise me. But if he doesn't, he's a starting running back for them all year. You could have an RB1 there. I mean, you could have,
Yeah.
uh, uh, you know, the 7 to 10 range. I don't know. I mean, that wouldn't shock me.
Sure.
You know,
Sure. And he did get paid. He got paid in the offseason. So
yeah.
a lot of times
And
they say follow the money.
yeah, and he's got a 3 down skill set. He can catch the ball. So he's one guy on this list that's like his range of outcomes is huge to me. I mean, you're swinging for the fences with him. You could be disappointed, or you could really have one of the steals of the draft.
Yeah. And he is one guy that, if his job gets stolen, we wouldn't be super surprised. So,
Right.
but I believe he should start the year as a starter. But yeah, there's just a little bit of risk.
Yep. Agree. So our ranked 27 or 28 is Adam Thielen. I have him ranked 24. Matt, you have him 30. I don't know if I'm high or if you're low, but I'm gonna guess that it's because you had Thielen last year and he kind of burnt you in the second half.
He did,
That,
yeah. Part of it is because I just think that they're going to try to establish the run a little bit more. That's just what I've been hearing in the offseason.
sure. Yeah.
Obviously, he started the year unbelievable, and he's still a great player, and he's still going to get a lot of targets. I actually have Diggs rated a little bit higher than him this year. But obviously, Thielen is a guy that you love to have on your team. Um, it's hard to say anything bad about him, really. But yeah, he did finish the year kind of rough. He had a couple weeks where he was pretty bad. As his owner, he would have a couple games where he would have like 0 targets in the first half, and that's just you just don't want to see that from your stud receiver.
Yeah. He like talking real football wise, like he's an elite receiver. He's really good. I think probably he's average higher than Stephon Diggs in most drafts, right, or most rankings.
Yeah,
but they're usually kind of back to back.
Yeah, they're pretty close. They're kind of like the Rams.
Yeah.
I also think that his touchdowns may come down this year.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think that he had a few they were unbelievable touchdowns last year, but I just don't know if that continues. He's not typically a big touchdown scorer. He's more of a volume guy. And so I think that limits his ceiling a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with that. Here's one thing though. I was listening to somebody talk about him not that long ago, and they were talking about his end of season numbers, and I think specifically like I can't remember if it was the last 3 games or the last 4 games or whatever. But they had played the Bears twice in that time, which to be fair, they're going to play the Bears again twice this year, obviously. But his numbers, yeah, they played somebody else that was they got stomped by somebody, New England, I think. Anyway, like his end of season numbers being as low as what they were, that could have been kind of a fluke thing.
Yeah.
To be fair, the beginning of his season was probably a little fluke thing too. I expect him to be somewhere in the middle. But honestly, he's another guy that I'd be happy grabbing him where he's going because you could have a wide receiver 1 again.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think he finished even with his bad end of the season. He still was like wide receiver 7.
Yeah,
so he was.
I think he was 9 or
great.
10 the year before.
Yeah, and he's still going to operate out of the slot, which means his volume's going to be there. Him and Cousins obviously have a connection, and this is Cousins' second year in the offense, second year with these guys, which just means he's going to be even more comfortable with them. So,
Agree.
I really like Adam Thielen, and I would be very happy to grab him at the end of the third.
Yep.
The next guy's his teammate, Stephon Diggs, and we kind of talked about him a little bit. I think that Diggs has a better touchdown. He's a better scorer. And the problem with Diggs is that he does have some injury risk.
He does.
He seems to miss a few games a year.
Yep.
Um, but I like his talent. I think that he's steadily gotten better in his career, um, and he's just a rock solid receiver.
I agree. I don't really have too much to add. I kind of echo everything you said. He is a fantastic receiver. They probably have the best two receivers in the leagues, in my opinion. Um, and I have Thielen ranked higher. Um, it would not shock me terribly if Diggs finished the season higher, but uh, I think I do have Thielen higher a little bit because of the injury risk to Diggs, though, too.
Yeah,
Next we have Robert Woods at 30. I have him at 29. Matt, you have him 31. Um, the guy is unbelievably good. He's been unbelievably good since he's been with the Rams. And actually, he was good with the Bills before. He just didn't put up numbers. But I think he's just a good receiver, and he's the type of guy you talked about earlier. If you have a big boom bust kind of player like Tyreek Hill, and you want somebody that's consistent, maybe he might not have the big blow up games that other receivers will,
right.
but he's just going to consistently produce for your fantasy team. And he's one of those guys that just seems to get overlooked.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like him a lot. I think he's a wide receiver one. He's a
I
back end wide receiver one. 9 to 12 range or something. But
yeah.
I think I
I
think he's a stud.
I love Robert Woods. The dude was like an automatic 20 points last year. Um, he was great, but his ceiling is somewhat limited. He's just not really the touchdown scorer for that team.
Right.
Those touchdowns are going to go to like Cooper Kupp, um,
Yep.
Brandon Cooks, and
Or big.
and
Yeah.
probably Gurley.
Yeah.
So, that's just where those are just the touchdown threats on that team. But Robert Woods is, he's going to get, you know, 7 to 9 targets a game and get, pretty good volume. So, um, he's a guy that I love to have as my wide receiver too.
Yep. Totally agree.
The next guy is someone that Tyler does not have ranked in the top 36, although he's probably pretty close. Um, I have him as 27, and that's Marlon Mack. Um, I like him a lot. I mean, I might have a little hometown bias on it, but he just looked so great at the end of the year last year. Like, if you watch him play, he just looked great. And the Colts' offensive line is elite. Um, and if Luck can stay healthy, and if he's in there week 1, week 2, and he's healthy, I think Marlon Mack is a really high 2. Um, you know, 12, 13, 14 range. Um, and I think that he'll get a lot of work.
Yeah. So I feel like I need to defend my position against him because, and it's not like I don't like Mac. We talked about him in the offseason. We talked about him at the end of last season. We both talked about how he might be an RB1. I mean, we both really liked him. However, the knock against him is the knock against him himself is just, is he going to catch the ball? I think from what I understand, he has that skill set. He can catch the ball. It's not like it's not like Jordan Howard where he just doesn't catch the ball, but they just don't use him that way. And they have Nyheim Hines, who is an excellent pass catcher, and I assume he will still be the pass catcher on the team. And then the biggest worry for me, and it's the reason why our next guy we'll talk about here in a little bit, T.Y. Hilton, um, I have him much lower too. It's like I'm afraid of Andrew Luck. It feels like we did this a couple years ago where, he had a minor injury that he should be coming back from, and it's no big deal. And now next thing you know, it's like, well, he'll come back maybe week 4, then maybe week 5. Man, I'm just not. I'm not drafting them where they're going because I don't want to play that game.
Yeah, sure, it's scary, and you're right about the pass catching because Max just not going to be on the field in third down. It's just
Right.
Hines is going to be out there, and also they drafted Paris Campbell, who I think will eat into Hines's work. So
Sure. I agree.
yeah, Mac is more of I think he's a great standard scoring guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in PPR, he's just a little bit lower. But um, man, if you looked at when he played last year, he was great. He
He
was really,
was.
really good.
He
Um,
was.
He had some really good blow up games, and even in the playoffs, he was great. So,
Yep, agree. So I talked a little about it just a second ago, but our next guy, 32, ranked number 32, is T.Y. Hilton. Matt, you have him at 29. I have him at 36. The guy's great. He's the weird thing about him is he's never scored a ton of touchdowns. He never gets a ton of catches or targets or anything like that. But he's just a yardage machine when Andrew Luck's
yeah.
playing. Actually, in some mock drafts before I got a little worried about Luck, I was grabbing T.Y. Hilton pretty consistently at that turn, that second and third round turn,
Hmm.
So if I had to grab him a little bit towards the later in the second, I would, or if I get him early in the third, great. But I really liked going like running back, and having him as my number one receiver. But now, again, I'm just not comfortable with the Luck situation, and so I have him a little lower just because I don't want to play that game.
Yeah, I agree. He does have a little bit of risk there. I mean, obviously his ceiling is much higher with Luck. He's the kind of guy that gets like 4 catches for 80 or 90 yards and a touchdown or something, or maybe not even a touchdown. But he doesn't get a ton of catches. But man, he's a downfield threat, and they look for him often. So he's an elite receiver. I mean, if Andrew Luck plays all year, T.Y. Hilton is probably a wide receiver one.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
The next guy is a rookie, Josh Jacobs for the Raiders. Obviously we don't know what he's going to do, but he was the first running back taken in the draft. The team has said a few times, I'm not sure why this keeps coming out, but they keep saying they want him to contend for Rookie of the Year. He doesn't have a lot of competition. The Raiders, who knows what kind of team they're going to be. Are they going to be a lot better? I mean, they certainly have added a lot of nice pieces there. So we would assume that their offense is going to be better. But there's just some unknown there. But Jacobs is a guy that's kind of rising in draft boards. Um, I suspect that he'll be a wide running back too.
Yeah, would not surprise me at all. He's our consensus rate 33. You have him 34. I have him at 31. We talked about him a little bit with our cigar bet, which will kind of lead that on to our next pick is Montgomery, David Montgomery. To me, I have him back to back. The advantage for Jacobs is he's going in, like you said, with no competition. He's going to be the bell cow for that team. The question mark is, again, like you said, how good is the team going to be? Not only their offense, but if their defense is not great, then you may find yourself in a position where he's not getting that many carries. And he can still catch the ball. Don't get me wrong. So he's not going to be game scripted out, but you still would rather have your running back in favorable positions, which is why our next guy at 34, David Montgomery, I have him in our cigar bet, even though, like I said, Jacobs is one spot higher than him. Montgomery to me is like he's a little bit. I'd say the risk is different. The risk is, is he going to be the starter from week one? I don't know. I think he will be, but I'm not sure. I think he's got a three down skill set just like Jacobs does. But Jacobs doesn't have what Montgomery has in that. What, Tyree?
So will he be on the field on third down, or I mean, I could see him and Cohen both being on the field on third down.
I agree. So Cohen is like, he's one of the limiting factors for Montgomery in my opinion. But I agree with you. I think they could both be on the field, and I think there's going to be enough work for Montgomery to be. I think just like you think with Jacobs, an RB2, and the Bears should still be a good team. Their defense should still be great, so they should be in favorable game scripts. I like both of these guys a lot, actually.
Yeah. I like Montgomery a lot too. And he did score a touchdown. He looked pretty impressive in that preseason game. So,
to be fair, that was against second string defense.
Sure, sure. But I mean, you still like to see it, you know.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
had he just looked pretty good. And a lot of times when you're watching preseason, you're just looking for that eye test. Um, you're not really looking at stats specifically, but you know, you see a guy make a great play, you know, looks good on the field. That's kind of what you want to see from your your high draft pick guy. So,
yeah.
um, the next guy is a guy that has been wildly inconsistent in the past. Amari Cooper. We got him at 35 consensus. I had him at 33. You actually had him at 35, so I'm surprised I like him a little bit better than you do.
Yeah, I am too.
I think that he is a guy that I would hope that his consistently improves this year. You know, the thing about him is that he jumped in when he got to the Cowboys and was an impact immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not usually, you don't really usually see that. So now he's had a full camp with him. So you hope that they integrate him just a little bit more consistently. He's by far the best receiver on their team.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that he'll still have his boom and bust type games. You know, he's going to really blow up, and then maybe have some games that hopefully they're just not as bad as they have been in the past.
Yeah.
He's a guy that could easily finish a lot higher than this.
Yeah, I totally agree. I actually assume he will finish higher than this. The thing is, like, we have him ranked a little bit lower because of his consistency issues. It seems like when we talk, it seems like I like him more. So I'm a little surprised that I have him. You have it's pretty close, but you have him a couple spots higher than I do. I had him in the I have him in the Dynasty League, and to be honest with you, I don't actually remember if I ever played him last year. And that's the worry about having him is like, do you know when his games? Yeah, when do you play him? Do you just play him all the time and suffer through his bad games just because he's going to have those week winning games?
Right.
Maybe if you have one of those consistent, Julio, Devontae Adams, somebody like that as a wide receiver 1, and you grab him as your wide receiver 2, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think he's one of those guys that you love as your 2. You just don't want him to have him as your 1.
Yep. Agree. I totally agree. And then our last guy here is Brandon Cooks. I actually don't have him rated at all. And Matt, you have him rated at 32. We talked a little bit about the Rams receivers earlier, just with Woods. Cooks, he's a little bit like Amari Cooper in the sense that a little bit boom bust type of guy. But he's going to finish up there. He's consistent. Has he ever finished below 1,000 yards receiving?
No, that's actually my favorite stat about Brandon Cooks is that this is his 4th year in the league. He's been with 3 teams in 3 years and has passed 1,000 yards in each year, which is really impressive.
It's very impressive. Yes. Yeah, he's a really good player. My only concern with him, and the reason why I don't have him ranked in the top 36, is there's so many weapons on that team, and he's kind of an inconsistent guy anyway. Obviously, consistently, he's pretty consistent season to season, but a little inconsistent game to game. So that's the only reason why I don't have him ranked.
Yeah, and he actually surprised people last year. A lot of people were really not very high on him going into the Rams, and he kind of proved everyone wrong. So, this is only his 2nd year with them. Like I said, that just means he has had more time with the offense and with McVay and with Goff. So, I think he's rock solid. He's a rock solid 2, and I think he's an up. He's a high 2.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Well, that's our top 36. There were a couple guys that got bumped out. Ertz, Edelman, and Melvin Gordon. I had Melvin Gordon as my 35th pick. I may move him down just because I'm just not hearing good things about his contract negotiations. So, we were talking earlier about where would you grab him. Because if you get him and he signs week 4, oh man, you made a great choice. Because he comes back and he's a top 5 guy. So, where would you get him?
Yeah, I think I could see myself getting him in the 4th or 5th round, maybe. It depends.
wonder what.
I could see myself grabbing him in the 4th if there's nobody else there that I really like. But I wouldn't. I would feel much more comfortable doing the 5th.
So his ADP right now is 25 overall. So he's
Yeah,
going 3-1, 301.
Yep. No way I'm taking a shot there.
Yeah. Yeah, the other two guys, Edelman and Ertz.
Ertz,
Obviously, Ertz. Yeah, Ertz is obviously a super elite tight end. I worry about his targets and his catches going down this year.
Sure.
You know, some people are playing him as a bust, and that's not saying that he's going to be bad, but that just he won't perform where he's getting drafted.
Yeah.
And Edelman, I love. You have him as 34. I didn't have him ranked in the top 36, but actually, now that Josh Gordon is back, he might move down even a little bit more for me.
Really?
Not to say that his role is there. And if you watched him in the playoffs in Super Bowl, he was unstoppable.
Yeah.
And you know, Tom Brady's 42, and you know, Edelman's not a super deep threat, so he's probably still going to get a lot of looks.
Yeah. That's why I have him ranked where I do.
Yeah.
I just assume he's going to be a target monster this year.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I'd be happy to grab him at the end of that 3rd.
Yep.
So
Agree.
Well, that is our top 36. So hopefully you stuck with us, and you kind of know what we're looking at now as far as our draft. But I still think it's fun to go through it and talk about it. We're going to take a break, and then we may even post it as a separate episode because this one went pretty long.
Yeah.
But we're going to do a quick mock, and I think that'll be kind of fun. So we'll try to post this soon, and then that one will follow shortly after. I'll definitely get them both up before the draft. So keep an eye out for them. So if you listened all the way through, thanks for listening. We appreciate it, and you know, the invite's always there if anyone wants to join. Tyler, any closing thoughts?
Nope. Just echoing, you know, what you just said. We'd love to have somebody else come on and do this with us, and then we'll see you here in the mock draft.
Okay. All right. Well, have a good night, everybody.